Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the AEW Dynamite post-show review. It is January 28th, 2026. We are closing January very, very soon. But we had a fantastic episode of AEW Dynamite that we're going to break down. A lot of things happened on this episode of Dynamite that we're going to go through and break down, as always, on the Dynamite post show or any post show that we do, whether it be Monday Night Raw, Dynamite, or SmackDown, or any PLEs. It's all the same. It's all the same layout, man. If you are new here, welcome to the channel. If you are returning, welcome back. You know how this works. You know how this goes. We go over everything that went down on the show, from the matches to the segments, all that good stuff. I break down here on the AEW Dynamite post show. If you don't know who I am your host Josh, as always, riding solo as always for the AEW Dynamite post show. Because my podcast partners, Rue and Stu. They are in the UK and it is very late over there. So it is rare they get to join me on the post shows. But we are planning to do our Royal Rumble predictions at some point this week because that is happening this Saturday. So make sure you guys are staying tuned for all that stuff because I'm hoping to get Stu on there as well. We got to see if Rue is going to be joining in as well. But yeah, we got a lot of stuff coming, a lot of cool things coming to Kayfabe Central. So make sure you guys are staying tuned for that. As always, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel if you're not already. Hit the notification bell so you're up to date with all the videos, podcasts, and interviews that comes to the channel. Check out the Kayfabe Central website. That's where I post all my coverage posts, articles, written predictions, all that good stuff is over there on the Kayfabe Central website. So make sure you guys go check that out. With the predictions side of things with on the website, I think it's going to be more of previews going forward on the website. I don't think I'm going to do a full written out predictions. Maybe it'll be more of an article based thing where I'll still throw my predictions, but we do the Predict the Bell podcast where we give our full analysis and breakdown and predictions of upcoming PLEs or pay-per-views anyway. So it doesn't really make sense reiterating myself. So usually, I'm thinking on the day of a pay-per-view or PLE, there will be a preview up on the day of the morning of the PLE. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that and look out for that on the Kayfabe Central website. That is always linked down in the description below. If you are in the live chat, make sure you guys drop your chats in the live chat so I can see you, shout you out, and let me know what you thought about this episode of AEW Dynamite. And yeah, of course, if you're watching this after the fact, also drop your comments down below. But let's talk about AEW Dynamite and we'll get into some other self-promo stuff later on in the show. Overall, I think this show flowed very well. I think that I went into this episode thinking there's a couple random matches on here. Like I look at Kenny Omega and Rocky Romero. Yeah, I get that's the Don Callis family and Kenny Omega having issues. And then I look at John Moxley and Ace Austin. I'm like, okay, Ace Austin, this is his first match on Dynamite. But I'm happy he gets that spotlight. But then the show actually went down, and man, a lot of this just flowed really, really well. And of course, AEW, they like to go overtime pretty much every single week with Dynamite. So, that didn't surprise me. They know they're gonna do that every single week. So everything flowed really well here, I think. You had some solid matches. Now, the opening match, which was Kenny Omega defeating Rocky Romero, I didn't see a second of. Not a single second because I was still setting up everything. My house has been chaotic recently, so I was still setting up. I was making my tea and all that stuff. So I completely missed this match, but from what I got from this match is it was pretty much just a squash match. That's pretty much what I got from it because I wasn't that long. I was downstairs for maybe like 5 minutes, and then I came back up, and the match was done, and Kenny Omega was cutting a promo. So I can't really speak on how the match quality was for this one. But after the match, Kenny Omega said he is willing to do anything to become AEW World Champion, and that means beating people he dislikes or likes. I think he used the word love actually. Even if he has to defeat people that he loves, he is willing to do that to become AEW World Champion. That sparks Hangman Adam Page to interrupt this promo, and he says the same thing. He says he'd rather be teaming with Kenny than going face to face with him, but he will not hesitate if it comes down to them two. Um, we then had um, we then had him say the next champion is not going to be Kenny, it's not going to be Andrade, and it's not going to be Swerve. It's going to be him. And that sparks Swerve Strickland to interrupt. And Swerve Strickland pretty much says the same stuff that he wasn't pinned at World's End and that he's willing to go through anybody, specifically looking at Kenny Omega. This felt just like a repeat of the promo we had last week, I think it was, or the week before. This just felt like a repeat of promos. And I don't think that we really needed this again because we already established that, yes, Swerve, Kenny, Hangman, Brody, who we see later in the show that we'll talk about, they're all going for the AEW World Championship. And I do like the fact that MJF is the biggest target in the company right now, and they are making that a point because he is the world champion. You know, you when you get into the professional wrestling business, your goal is to be a world champion, of course, and they're making that a very big focal point. It's not just one person feuding with MJF, and I think that they realize they have a lot of time until Revolution, and they're just killing some time. It's going to be interesting to see who MJF ultimately faces at Revolution, whether that be Kenny, whether that be Swerve, whether it be some sort of multi-man match, which it could potentially be the case. Um, but then Don Callis interrupts, and Don Callis says he has something planned for Kenny, Swerve, and Hangman Adam Page. He didn't specify what that was, but he tells Swerve that tonight he is going to lose his winning streak against Andrade tonight in the main event. And then Kenny Omega chases Don Callis to the back. So the opening of the show, I wasn't too like wowed by or anything like that. We again, like I mentioned, we saw this in previous weeks before. Not to say like this was bad or anything, it just felt like a complete repeat. Like, okay, well, we kind of want these guys to do something more on this show than, you know, whatever they're involved in. So let's just do the same thing over again. That's kind of what this felt like. And I feel like doing the same thing over, even if it is just, you know, 1 week, it's still not the greatest thing. It's a very lazy way of booking, is the way I look at it. So I wasn't a huge fan of them repeating this stuff again because we already established what all these men are gunning for, and that is the AEW World Championship. Um, so we had that. We then had a vignette to hype up Chris Statlander and Tekla later tonight. Willow said her and Harley Cameron are going to put the women's tag titles on the line if the Sisters of Sin don't get involved in Tekla and Chris Statlander's match later tonight. Spoiler alert, they did not. So um, the Babes of Wrath. I forgot the tag team name for a second for some reason. The Babes of Wrath are going to be defending the AEW Women's World Tag Team Championships against the Sisters of Sin. I believe this Saturday on Collision. That is a live episode of Collision, so I may be doing coverage for that potentially. I'm not sure. I will watch it though because it does seem like a pretty solid card. Um, but yeah, that's happening. Obviously after the Royal Rumble. The Royal Rumble is happening around like 2 o'clock. It'll probably wrap up around I want to say like 5:30, 6 o'clock, maybe even potentially. So like I'll have time to get my post show in for the Rumble and then check out AEW Collision. So it's gonna be a busy day on Saturday. I even got some we even got some like renovations happening here on Saturday as well. So it's gonna be a very, very chaotic day on Saturday. So um now that I thought about that, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to do a post show for the Rumble. So we got to see how that goes and what's going on with that and everything. But we are doing a post show for Dynamite. So let's continue with what happened on the show tonight. we went into the second match of the night, which was for the Continental, not for the Continental Championship. It was the Continental Championship Eliminator match. That was between John Moxley and Ace Austin. I mentioned earlier that this match went down. John Moxley defeats Ace Austin. Ace had a fantastic showing here, and he is a fantastic competitor. I'm so happy to see Ace Austin in this position, man. Like, I when I saw Ace Austin for the first time years ago, I can't remember when it was. It was, I'm pretty sure it was a TNA episode. And then he's been at Destiny Wrestling here in Canada and Ontario, quite a bit. And I always had like, man, this guy is so damn talented. If only he could just break through and like get to the top and get to like a big spotlight. And here he is facing John Moxley in a Continental Championship Eliminator match. And like, obviously he lost. It's John Moxley. It's his first Dynamite. But this is just how you get to the top, right? That's how you start. You know, you're not gonna beat unless the odds are in your favor because sometimes it happens. Anything can happen in professional wrestling. But more often than not, you're not going to beat one of the top guys in the company on your first night on the main show. So this was still a good showing from Ace Austin. And I think that he has a bright future there, whether it be in Ring of Honor, AEW, or both. I'm going to be curious to see what they do with him. Do they stick him in Ring of Honor a little bit more, or do they have him compete for one of the four mid card titles that they have? He could definitely be, I think you could definitely stick Ace Austin into like the national championship picture. Him and Ricochet could put on a pretty solid match as well. Even if you wanted to stick him into the TNT title picture, you could have like Ace Austin versus Kyle Fletcher, Ace Austin versus Mark Briscoe, I think would be a pretty solid match. It's just a matter of how you build him up, and how you book Ace Austin. So good showing here from Ace Austin. After the match, though, Konosuke Takeshita comes out and stares down John Moxley. No fists are thrown between them two, but then Jake Doyle and Mark Davis come out and attack John Moxley from behind. Moxley didn't have anybody ringside there to help him, no Death Riders. So they jump him and he has no help. And that is the end of that segment. So, yeah, solid match from Ace Austin and John Moxley. I think this was their first time wrestling each other. I could be wrong about that. But I believe it's the first time wrestling each other. If I am wrong, let me know in the comments. Uh, but we then went to the TNT Championship match. Mark Briscoe defeated El Clone by pinfall to retain the TNT title. This was a great match. And for some reason, I didn't expect this match to be as good as it was. I don't know what it was. I just looked at this. I'm like, okay, this is going to be a TNT Championship match. But then I forgot how smooth El Clone is in the ring because man, this guy can move. Like some of the things he does in there, I'm like, okay, this guy might be able to do some things and make some noise in AEW because he's got it. Like he's so smooth in the ring. There was a move that he did. The Pele kick that he did, where he was like arched back and he still did the Pele kick. Um, Fantastic, man. Fantastic stuff. And some of the springboard stuff that he was doing in there as well was awesome. So, but Mark Briscoe pulls it out and he beats El Clone to retain the TNT Championship. After the match is where the interesting stuff really happened because Mark Briscoe says he's going to continue the TNT Championship Open Challenge, but he's sick and tired of the Don Callis family. He's sick and tired of beating people in the Don Callis family. So he wants some new competition. He's opening it to anybody. Then all of a sudden, the lights go out. Of course, my dumbass screamed, "It's the Undertaker," but obviously as a joke. But the lights come back on, and it's Tommaso Ciampa, the Psycho Killer, I believe, is what he's going as in AEW as his nickname. But Tommaso Ciampa comes out and he stares down Mark Briscoe, and that match is made official for this Saturday on Collision for the TNT Championship. Now, this caught me completely by surprise. I did not think that Tommaso Ciampa was going to go over to AEW. I thought that if he wants to be a world champion, TNA would have been his best suit. However, he's making a whole lot more money in AEW than he was going to be in TNA. And I can always applaud that. Get your money. That this is a rough business to be in. Get paid, get your money, and that's what Tommaso Ciampa did. Now, in terms of the role that I think he's going to play, I still stick with what I was saying beforehand of uh I think he's gonna be in that Roderick Strong role. I don't see him winning a world title. I can see him maybe being part of the Don Callis family. Maybe he wins, a mid-card title or two or three, maybe a couple of mid-card titles. But I don't see him getting pushed to that world title picture. I just don't think with the star power you already have there, and I'm not saying Tommaso Ciampa is not a star. That's not where I'm going at all. But you already have a stacked world title division right now. We, showcased it very well on this episode of Dynamite. But I don't see him becoming world champion at AEW, and I would be happy to be proved wrong. Like me and Ruth say, our favorite thing in wrestling is being proved wrong. And if AEW, Tommaso Ciampa proves me wrong, I will be more than happy. I am not here to doubt the man. I am not here to um, discredit anything he's done or discredit his talent or anything like that. I'm just saying I don't see him being elevated to that level. But then again, I could be wrong. But he is facing Mark Briscoe for the TNT Championship this Saturday. I don't know if he's going to win it in his first match. I feel like they want to do more with this Mark Briscoe reign, so I'm going to assume that Tommaso Ciampa loses. Um, so it's an open challenge, right? It's a TNT Championship Open Challenge, so it's not like, oh, he didn't earn it. Why is he getting a title match in his first match here? It's an open challenge. So he came out and he accepted it, and that's happening on Collision. So I'm happy for Tommaso Ciampa that he's found a place that hopefully he can be happy because obviously, he didn't say anything out loud, but I can't imagine with the way he kind of left the WWE, he was really happy over there. And who knows? Maybe it's a possibility we see Johnny and maybe Candice over there soon as well. I'm not sure the specifics of their contract and when that's up, but it's very possible that Tony Khan will want DIY in AEW, and you add them to the tag division. You can run it back with FTR. Some good matches to be had there if you add DIY to your roster. Um, so maybe that is the plan. Maybe like I'm not saying there's any contract tampering going on, but maybe like Ciampa himself has talked to Gargano. Maybe they've been like, maybe Gargano's like, okay, maybe like once my contract is up, if it's up soon, he's gonna join Ciampa in AEW and maybe as well as Candice LeRae. Um, but who knows? We got to see where it takes us. Right now, we just got to focus on what Tommaso Ciampa is doing, and that's this Saturday for the TNT Championship. But yeah, Ciampa is in AEW. Backstage, Kazuchika Okada, Kyle Fletcher were with Renee Paquette. Renee Paquette brought up that Kazuchika Okada wanted this time with Kyle Fletcher to apologize for World's End and using the screwdriver, and Kyle Fletcher accepts his apology and they shake hands, and that's the segment. That's literally it. I don't have anything to add to this, to be honest. Um, yeah, that's cool. There was something added onto this later. Actually, I might as well get into that. Let's see um, where that happened. So we had a backstage segment later on where Don Callis was with Konosuke Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher, and he told Konosuke Takeshita that he should forgive Okada the same way Fletcher did, and Takeshita was a little bit taken back by that. And he just went on to put these two guys over and say that Kyle Fletcher is going to be coming after the TNT Championship once Ciampa and Mark Briscoe are done their thing. After Don Callis walks away, um, it was Takeshita that's was like, you forgave Okada to Fletcher. So and then Kyle Fletcher tried to explain himself, and then Takeshita just walked away. This was the most like, I don't know. This felt very I'm trying to find the word. This is feels like a scene you would see in a movie, like a high school drama movie or something like that. It just made me chuckle a little bit. I'm like, okay, that was kind of weird. Um, but yeah, it is what it is. Like it's starting to just feel um like that this is just a relationship with Don Callis and Kazuchika Okada, and there's jealous exes involved. That's what all this is feeling like right now. Because this was like kind of weird. I don't even know if it was weird in a bad way or a good way, to be honest. It was just weird. Um, but that's what happened later on in the night. Um, Rewinding, we went to I'm trying to keep up with all my notes here. We had a promo from MJF. MJF came out and he didn't get many words in because Brody King interrupted once again, and MJF reasonably crashes out because he was like, I literally told you last week. I told your big. He said something along those lines. He came up with a whole bunch of names for Brody King. But he said, I told you last week that if you want a match with me, and if you want to be AEW World Champion, you have to beat some elite talent. And Brody King decided to say, nah, forget that. But Max did bring up how Brody was, following Malachi Black, Buddy Matthews, and Bandito. And Brody King has, in response to that, that those are friendships, something that MJF doesn't know much about. Um, Going back to the AEW title stuff, Brody King apparently doesn't want to win matches. Instead, he apparently sat down with Tony Khan and he said they agreed to have an eliminator match between Brody King and MJF next week. And if Brody King wins that match, he of course gets an AEW World Title shot, and he will get it at AEW Grand Slam Australia, which is happening on a Saturday on Valentine's Day. So you know what? Anybody who doesn't have anything to do on Valentine's Day, you have AEW Grand Slam Australia. I didn't see the start time. I don't know if there's going to be like a special start time or if they're just going to air it on a tape delay. I'm not too sure yet. I didn't pay full attention to the start time, but I'll check that out after or maybe closer to the show. Um, but yeah, MJF was a little bit taken back by that, and Brody King just walks away. Um, we had a vignette for the Young Bucks who said they're going to be returning next week, and they warned the entire tag division for a super kick party. This is like their second return in like a month. I swear, and what like didn't they just return earlier this month at the start of the year? I could have sworn they did, and that was marked as a return, and now they're gonna return again. So it's a Roman Reigns domino effect, I guess, right? He goes away for a few weeks, and then he's gonna return. But when I spoke to Adam Martin here on the podcast when we were on the Kayfabe recap, if you guys don't know Adam Martin, promoter for Norfolk County Championship Wrestling, we did a podcast episode. If you haven't checked that out, go check that out. But he was explaining to me why promoters do the whole return thing. It builds hype. If maybe somebody didn't see a previous show or something like that, they'll be like, "Oh, he's gonna be here." So just the return word builds a lot of hype. So when Adam explained it like that, I was like, okay, I guess that makes a little bit of sense. I still kind of feel like it's a little bit overdone. Like the guy disappears for 3 weeks, but then he comes back and it's a return. Like that's more of just a break. Like, um, but it is what it is. Um, that was the vignette for the Young Bucks. They're going to be back next week. I assume they didn't say who they're facing, so I assume they're just going to face like a local tag team in Vegas because that's where Dynamite is next week. Apologies for the dead air. As you guys know, when I do this by myself, sometimes I need to take a sip of my drink. Um, we then went to the AEW Women's World Championship match. Chris Statlander defeated Tekla by pinfall to retain the title. Great match here. Great match. I don't think either of these women messed up a whole lot. There wasn't any like botches or anything that I caught. Um, and yeah, they put on a show, a solid enough show for a TV match, right? If this was a like, if this match happened uh on a pay-per-view, then I feel like it would be a little bit underwhelming. But they built this perfectly for a TV title match, and Chris Statlander retains. I thought there was a chance that Tekla could win the title here because she's been built up quite a bit recently, but I'm like, no, this kind of feels like a random episode of Dynamite to kind of just change the title. So, um, maybe that won't happen, and it didn't. Chris Statlander retains. So there was that. And after the match, Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford were on the stage staring down at Chris Statlander, Willow Nightingale, and Harley Cameron. They didn't specify what they were out there for. It could be for the AEW Women's World Tag Team Championships. One of them could be out there for the TBS Championship, or one of them could be out there for the AEW Women's World Championship. They didn't specify, but we are going to find out in the next coming weeks, I would only assume. So yeah, things like this, little things like this, I think is good because it builds that intrigue. And I think that's something AEW is doing well recently. And they've started to do quite a bit more often recently is they'll plot something one week, but they're not going to fully reveal it until the next week. And WWE does this as well. They don't. Sometimes they overdo it, but when it's done right, it works very well. So all I hope is for Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford to get some matches under their belt, more matches, because Penelope Ford just came back. I would assume they go for the tag titles unless they just want Megan Bayne to go straight after Chris Statlander. Um, I don't think they're gonna do a case of where they're going after both, because I think that would just be weird. And you have other tag teams that can go after the tag titles and other women that can go after the women's title. So you don't need to have them do go after both, which I don't think that they're gonna do. I don't see that being the case at all. Um, but yeah, there was that. Um, we then had backstage. Oh no, I went over that actually. Um, we then had the AEW World Tag Team Championship match, which I still have on the website as ongoing. So apparently this match is still going, according to the Kayfabe Central website. So I have to go change that after this show. Am I going to remember to change it? Probably not, because the amount of times I have said I'm going to go back and change something and never do. I've lost count. But FTR defeated the Don Callis families, Mark Davis and Jake Doyle, by pinfall to retain the titles with some help from John Moxley. Because earlier in the night, as you guys remember, John Moxley was jumped by Davis and Doyle. I completely forgot in this moment that Moxley was jumped earlier in the night by Davis and Doyle. I'm like, why is he here? I'm like, oh, right. Okay, this makes sense. Because I was just going to say, are we just doing things? But then I was like, wait a minute. My brain is a little bit fried right now. I forgot for a second. Um, Thank God I wasn't on live doing a watch along or anything, or I would have just gotten flamed by everybody. Be like, what are you talking about, Josh? Um, but this was a good match. This was a really hard hitting match. Dax Harwood's chest was bleeding from the chops from Davis and Doyle. Such a funny name, Davis and Doyle. It sounds like a cartoon that would be on like Teletoon or YTV or something like a Davis and Doyle. And that's not to poke fun at that. I just find the name very funny. I think they're both fantastic in-ring competitors, and they would absolutely crush my skull in real life. So I just find the tag team name pretty hilarious. Um, But we then had backstage Renee Paquette with Orange Cassidy, who was making fun of Wheeler Yuta's appearance. And you can kind of tell that Orange Cassidy was thinking of these insults on the fly because he's insulting them, insulting Wheeler Yuta. And like what did he say? He said like something about his beard is too bushy and his hair is too long, and he couldn't even finish the phrase. And Wheeler Yuta interrupted him, like, "Is this what we're doing now? We're going after personal appearances." Um, and then Marina Shafir steps in and kind of just grabs Orange Cassidy's hair, but Tony Storm steps in his defense, and Tony Storm says when uh, her and Orange Cassidy meet Marina Shafir and Wheeler Yuta, Marina is going to be in deep shit. I was contemplating if I should rephrase what what Tony said because sometimes I like to keep it clean, but you know what? It is what it is. I think I cussed earlier in this show anyway, so it is what it is, right? Um, and then security split them up. So they're still doing this kind of love angle, I guess, with Tony Storm and Orange Cassidy, which I find a little bit weird. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of it. It's sometimes entertaining, but I'm just not the biggest fan of the like whole love angle stuff. Um, but it is what it is. Maybe, like I've been saying, like maybe I just complain about things more often um when I'm in like when I'm wrestled out. You know, when there's too much wrestling because there's way too much wrestling. Sometimes my energy is very low. But there is a solution because, ladies and gentlemen, we have our first sponsor for Kayfabe Central here. We have W Energy, which is an energy drink that you can make for yourself if you go to W Energy's website, which is linked down below, and you use the code Kayfabe Central. You can get 10% off of any order that you place. That's right. You can change your day. You can change your day in the morning. You can make yourself a W Energy drink, and you can have all the fuel in the world. You can get 10% off of that order by just using the code Kayfabe Central, ladies and gentlemen. That that's that's a deal. And some of the drinks that they got on there, they got some very very nice drinks on there. Very nice drinks. Very interesting names as well. I think a lot of you will find interesting. But W Energy, man, I'm going to be placing my order and I'm going to be getting me some W Energy appliances. And I maybe I'll do an unboxing. Maybe I will do an unboxing and I'll try it on stream. Maybe on stream, maybe just a regular podcast. Maybe it'll be a TikTok. But at some point I will be trying it. But go check out W Energy. Use code Kayfabe Central for 10% off and get that energy up so you're not wrestled out like I am. So you're not dead throughout the day like I am. W Energy, Kayfabe Central, 10% off. Go check it out. Um, that is going to take us to the main event of the evening, which was Andrade El Idolo taking on Swerve Strickland. This was a fantastic match, and I expected nothing less. Andrade El Idolo defeats Swerve Strickland. Now, I didn't think that Andrade was going to win. I thought there was a chance because both these men came into this match undefeated. But Andrade just recently returned to the company, so this makes sense to have him win, especially if you want to have him looked at as a serious threat to win the AEW World Championship. So this was a great match, man. So many high spots in this match. Um, yeah, this was fantastic. These guys just showed out, and they just showed why they're so damn good, man. Like Andrade is so good. It's unfortunate that he went through the stuff that he did with WWE and all of that, but he's back in AEW and he's just gonna be putting on banger matches, and that's where Andrade thrives. Andrade is not the best talker, which is why they've paired him up with Don Callis. What's Andrade good at? He's good at getting it done in the ring, and man, did he get it done tonight. These guys cooked. These guys absolutely cooked. I understand why this was the main event because it felt like a main event. I forget the term that they used on commentary. Gritty. Gritty is the word that they used. That's what this match was. Real gritty. It felt like a real fight, man. Like Swerve hit two house calls. He had that mid-air house call. That mid-air house call is just a thing of beauty. I'm going to be writing that down as one of my top, moves or finishers for the year at the end of the year because not just the regular house calls, because the regular house call is fantastic in itself, but when he catches you mid-air and he does it so smoothly, man, so smoothly, it looks perfect. It looks amazing. Um, but Andrade does pick up the win here, clean against Swerve Strickland. Don Callis didn't get involved. Prince Nana didn't get involved. This was just a match with a whole lot of good spots, and Andrade picks up the win. Yeah, I don't really have much else to add on to that, but Andrade showing why he is a great wrestler. And like I said, I'm happy he's here. I'm happy he looks happy. He looks happy. And that makes me happy. We also had a spot in this match, by the way, where it was early on in the match. There was a girl in the crowd, obviously a plant, um, where Andrade went up to this girl and took a picture with her on her phone, and then the girl wiped her makeup on a tissue and gave it to Andrade. I don't I didn't really understand that. And this happened on TV. It wasn't like during a commercial or anything like that. This happened on TV. It happened right before a commercial break, actually. Um, but I don't know. Maybe that's a kink that Andrade has. I don't know. I don't know who the girl was either. If anybody does know who the girl is, then go ahead and leave it in the comment. Maybe if it's someone of significance that I should know and that I don't. But they're doing this thing where the crowd was chanting "Take your pants off" because he did it on Collision. Andrade, he's a good-looking dude, right? He's a fairly good-looking guy, and obviously the AEW crowd appreciates that. And they appreciate it so much that they want him to take his pants off. So I guess that's a compliment to Andrade. He seems to love it. And like I said, he just looks like he's happy and he's having fun. And that is what it's all about. If you're having fun out there, you're going to perform to your best. And that's what he did against Swerve Strickland tonight. And that's what Swerve Strickland did against Andrade. He just came out on the losing end. But this is going to be interesting going forward because backstage, after this match, MJF was with Renee Paquette. Kenny Omega interrupted the interview, and by the way, forgot to mention the winner of Andrade Swerve faces Kenny Omega next week. So that means Andrade faces Kenny next week, and they're framing it as whoever wins that match is going to face MJF at Revolution or Brody King if he is to win the title for the AEW World Title. So Kenny goes up to MJF and he's pretty much like, when I win next week, I'm gonna see you at Revolution. I'm gonna become a new AEW World Champion. And Kenny offers him his hand, but MJF does not shake his hand because MJF does not like Canadians. So he wouldn't like me very much, probably. Even though he is married to a Canadian, but he has voiced his displeasure about that as well on interviews. Um, if you haven't checked out some of the interviews that MJF does, they are absolutely hilarious. He's definitely somebody I would love to have on the channel at some point for an interview. Um, but he then runs into Andrade, who got to the back quick as hell. I mean, like the match had just ended. Did Andrade like sprint to the back? Did he go through the crowd or something? I have no clue. But he was there, and he said he wants that AEW World Championship. MJF just scoffs. He's like, "Sure, buddy, sure." And then he walks out. He goes outside. He goes to his car. But then Hangman Adam Page says, He doesn't say a word. Just slams the car door shut, stares at MJF, and then says, "Yeah, you can go." And then MJF gets in and says, "Drive, drive." The car speeds away. I was waiting for that car to hit one of those cones down the road, because I felt like I felt like that was gonna happen. That driver just pressed on that gas pedal, man. He was out of there. I honestly thought he was going to hit one of those cones down there, but that was a very good driver to be able to maneuver like that. You can't drive like that here in Canada right now because there's snow all over the ground. So that made me kind of sad. But um, yeah, the show ended with Hangman Adam Page just standing in the parking lot very dramatically. Great ending. I think this was a great ending. It shows how stacked the AEW world title scene is, and it shows how big of the target is on MJF's back as the world champion, which is always how it should be. When you're the world champion, you should have the biggest target on your back. You should have these top guys coming after you, and that's what they're playing at here. And they know Tony Khan knows that, man, not only I got a long time till Revolution. I could play around here a little bit, have some banger matches on Dynamite, have, you know, not really have set in stone who's going to face MJF just yet. We're gonna make the crowd guess. Oh, maybe it could be Swerve. Oh, maybe it could be a multi-man match, right? I like what he's doing here. I like what AEW is doing here. I think it's a really good way of getting everybody involved when you have a long time until a pay-per-view. And I hope he continues this. The only thing that I have is what I mentioned earlier is the repeated promos. I don't want to see repeated promos. I don't want next week to be another promo between Hangman, Kenny, and Swerve and be like, oh, I don't care if you're my friend. I'm gonna beat you for the title. I don't want to see that for a third week in a row. I don't have any interest in that, but build some different things around this. You could have a lot of different matches with this, right? I thought, maybe they would have gone with Swerve and Kenny, but maybe that's something that they're saving. Maybe that's something later down the line. Maybe they do that at Grand Slam Australia potentially. Maybe that's what they do. I could see that happening or whatever it is they want to do because they have teased that match even on this episode of Dynamite. So it is going to be very interesting to see where all of this goes and who ends up challenging MJF for the AEW World Championship next week, bro. Not Bro Dito, not the whole tag team. Brody King gets a shot in an eliminator match against MJF. So we got to see how that plays out. Yeah, man. Overall, solid episode of AEW Dynamite. I think this show flowed very well. There wasn't a point where I felt bored or, tired or, like anything like that. I feel like this was a very engaging show and I give it a thumbs up. If this is an episode of Dynamite you missed, I would recommend going and watching it back because there are some, very important things that went down on this show that's going to, transcend the, trajectory of AEW and where it's going to go for AEW Revolution. So, a lot of important things that happened on the show. If you missed it, definitely go check it out. And some great matches that happened on the show as well. When you have more matches on a show, it's always a great thing. We had more matches than we had segments on this show. And the segments meant something, except for the opening one between that I mentioned earlier. But other than that, the segments meant something. By the way, we also, for some reason, I didn't write it down. We had a thing, or I think I just skipped over it, where Ricochet and GOA jumped Jungle Jack Perry. So that set up a AEW National Championship match next week between those two. Ricochet just being his comedic self and sent it back to Tony Schiavone. And Tony was like, I don't want him to send it back to me. Excalibur, you got this. So I found that kind of a funny moment. Speaking of Tony Schiavone, by the way, I hate to be this guy, and I've spoken on this before. You gotta get him off commentary, man. I feel like he's just not getting better, and that's like it's a thing with age, right? It's the same thing I say with Jim Ross right now, one of the greatest commentators of all time, but at some point it catches up to you. You can't be the greatest forever. And it's the same thing with Tony Schiavone. And I think that he needs to be off commentary. Hell, get Nigel on Dynamite. Where did Bryan Danielson go? I think, you have Taz, Excalibur, Bryan Danielson, solid enough lineup. We had Taz there tonight, so it wasn't how we had it a few weeks ago, where it was JR, Tony Schiavone, and Excalibur. That was not a good commentary team. Um, but yeah, solid episode of Dynamite here. I am going to be back on Friday with the Friday Night SmackDown post show review, so make sure you guys are staying tuned for that. I don't do a post show for TNA Impact, so I do I do coverage for TNA Impact on Thursday still on the Kayfabe Central website. So make sure you guys keep a lookout for that. And of course, I'm always posting on Twitter, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram, all that good stuff. All that stuff is linked down below in the description. So make sure you guys go check all the links down and below. What's going on, Phoebe? Phoebe, you're a little bit late. I'm now closing out the stream. I am now closing out the stream. I've been live for 45 minutes. This has been one of my longest solo post shows that I've done, and you come in at the end. It's very unfortunate. Um, yeah, I apologize, Phoebe. But you missed a good post show. I feel like I did a solid job by myself here. Um, But yeah, I just went over AEW Dynamite, all the stuff that went down. Um, yeah, I was just saying it was a very good. When were you gonna tell me Ciampa's in AEW now? He is. He is in AEW now. I talked about that earlier. I was like, I didn't think he was gonna go to AEW. I thought it was gonna be TNA if anything. But you know what? I mentioned it earlier as well. He's making a lot more money in AEW than he was going to be in TNA anyway. So I'm happy for that. It's a rough business to be in. Get your money, get paid. Um, but yeah, Tommaso Ciampa is in AEW, and he is in AEW as Tommaso Ciampa. So that's really cool to see as well. He got all his trademark stuff done as well. So um, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he is in AEW. Um, but yeah, Phoebe, I am closing out. Take Johnny and Candice with him. That's what I was saying too. I can see Tony Khan wanting DIY in AEW, and you run back the match with FTR or something like that. Um, yeah, I think a lot of that can be very, very interesting. Um, but unfortunately, Phoebe, you are very late. But I am going to be back on Friday, and I am going to be doing my Friday Night SmackDown post show. And I know Phoebe is always on me about being live on TikTok for the watch alongs. I'm going live every Tuesday, guys, for the NXT watch alongs. So make sure you guys are tuned into that on TikTok on Tuesdays. Um, TikTok Tuesdays, should we call it? No. Um, but yeah, I will be live every Tuesday on TikTok for NXT Watch Along, um, F SmackDown. You know what? It's not been terrible. It's not been terrible. I don't think last week I was there last week SmackDown. I don't think it was that bad, but the 3 hours does kill. My stepdad literally fell asleep during SmackDown. We were there live, and he fell asleep. So, um, yeah, that should tell you something. Um, TTT's TikTok Tuesdays. Sure. Sure, why not? Why not? It will this week. Yeah, I don't even know what's lined up for this week right now. I can't even remember. But yeah, I'm going to call it a night. I am going to get some sleep because I am tired and I'm just going to crash. So I will see you guys on Friday for the Friday Night SmackDown post show. Make sure you guys are subscribed, like, and comment, hit the notification bell so you're up to date with all the videos, post shows, podcasts, interviews, all that good stuff that comes to the channel. Check it all out. Make sure you guys are notified, flopping drastically. Yeah, I will see you guys on Friday. Until then, take it easy. Good night, guys.